welcome to the Lemonade Car Show. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. I'm joined by John Raymond, who's an APA consultant and industry expert, and Brian Early is my mechanic this week. We're talking seasonal topics, which was generic, except it's not. I know we've discussed tires before on the show. I'm coming back to tires because now especially more important than ever, and we can never get enough information.
And we're getting into the season.
We are, it's definitely there.
Yeah.
There's something I wanted to address. A lot of times people will say, I can't afford winter tires, I can't do it. I know you men agree with me. I'm always of the side, I don't care. The worst winter tires are better than the best all seasons.
I think that's a universal agreement
I
on
think
everyone's
it should
part.
be. And just, I've got a lot of vehicles in my family because I have all the kids, and we've got Blizzaks on one, top-end Blizzaks. I've got high-end Toyos on something that just came to my attention very recently. Motomaster, Canadian Tire, everyone's favorite store, has brought in their own lower range tires. They've got light truck winter tires, but now they're introducing a winter range tire. They're good tires.
In large sizes?
They go all the way up. They start at $119.99, and throughout the season they're on sale, 25% off. Check your flyer for this stuff. And there's rebates on almost every tire brand at most points in the season. You can find it. But the technology in the tires is getting really good. So honestly, at $120 a tire, now you don't have use those points you've been, putting together. But APA website, give us a little bit on that.
There are tires at every price point. There are tires that are manufactured in Canada, elsewhere in the world. We have a very strong following of viewers, readers that rely on our reports that come out twice a year, once for the winter season and once for the summer season, on tire reviews. And we do have tires reviewed at different price points. It's open to the public at apa.ca, so just go on to the web and go to apa.ca, and you'll read our reviews, our comments, tips, and we do have a variety of choices, and of course you could contact the APA and we will advise you. We also work with tire vendors for discounts as well to our members.
A lot of people, Brian, are asking how long a winter tire should last. I was talking to the folks at Canadian Tire. They've got a 50,000 K tread wear on this.
It's awesome that they actually have come out and given a rating on that, because typically winter tires don't have any kind of a tread life, and there's no legal requirement for it to have an indication.
So but that's changing too. Michelin came out with that and has a long life.
I just was encouraged to see this at an entry level.
That's remarkable, especially
point.
on a lower end tire.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of terrific. How long can we get out of tires? I know it depends on driving conditions. It depends on how people drive.
Storage.
Yeah,
there's
so many variables.
Talk about
it's
storage. What's
impossible.
going to break them down?
Well, I mean, obviously storing them outdoors is not ideal. I've seen that. They would like to be somewhere that's warm and dry and sheltered and not next to your furnace. If you've got a finished basement, you've got a quiet corner somewhere, that's awesome. But if you don't, your garage, I guess, is the next best thing.
But not near a window.
But
ultraviolet rays.
Yes, exactly. A lot of places will actually store tires for you as well.
At a charge.
At a charge.
They
Yeah.
do
Sometimes it's quite steep.
My mechanic gives the money to the Lions Club.
Really?
Yeah, he's very involved with the Lions Club. And he goes, I'll store your tires for you, but.
I haven't heard that, but that's
I'm sure it's just the
commendable.
local thing, but I thought it was great. So I pay him a little more than it would cost me at some other places. But how are you going to go wrong doing that?
I think with any tire, it's imperative before you put them on for that season, now we're into winter, is to check them beforehand, look at the date code to make sure that the tires are still eligible to be on the road. It's not only wear of the tires, it could be cracking and other issues.
Oh, absolutely. Now that people are more on board with the winter tire thing too, you're amortizing your tire wear over 2 sets of tires. So age is becoming more of an issue than wear in some cases. If you just don't put the mileage on to wear the tire out, they get cracked and they're too old. And
there's very good information on the web at a variety of sources, including our website, the apa.ca.
I'm a fan of dedicated rims for all the winter tires.
100%.
I like steelies because I think they look cool, the black ones.
It's very NASCAR.
But less wear and tear on the tires, on the bead, putting them on and off,
very
correct?
much so.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can't speak for all shops, but certainly our shop, the cost difference between paying us to peel all of your tires off the rims and put tires back on and do that twice a year versus just hanging a set of mounted tires and rims on a car twice a year, 2 or 3 seasons you've paid for the
You
wheels.
paid for them. 'Cause
Plus
steel-
you risk damaging the tire every time you take it off.
Is it true that the chrome is getting tougher? It used to be that the steel was a lot tougher and the winters were.
mags? The mags are actually tougher
They're
than
getting better?
the steel wheels.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
the steel wheels, the one nice thing is that when they get damaged, you could bang them out.
Yeah.
Going back to your previous comment, it's important before you mount wheels to have them cleaned and visually inspected. They get all sorts of junk on them, and if they're not cleaned properly, they're not going to balance. There are a number of people that have 2 sets of rims, and they say, you know what, it's steered great. There's no vibration going out of the season. You don't have to balance them. It's a good policy to balance them and check the valve stems every
And
season.
they're off anyway. To balance them is not a whole lot more additional work.
I think sometimes too, people have one tire deflating and they think it's the tire. It turns out it's the rim, and there's corrosion on the
very,
rim.
very common.
But
Very
once
common.
you start filing it down, you're going to need a new rim.
Not necessarily. You can extend the life of the wheel if you grind it and treat it properly.
Yeah.
On a steel rim.
On a steel, well, no, aluminum too. You can do it. You can buy.
I just heard it's like you're
coatings.
kicking it down the road. Like you're maybe not.
I
hard
think
to
if
say.
you clean the surfaces
Okay.
of the rim,
Okay.
then you'll have a better.
All right. So winter tires, get them on one way or another. Entry level is just cool. That's all the time we have for this segment. Then John will be back speaking to Dennis DesRosiers, the car industry guru.
Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show. Today I'm with Dennis DesRosiers, president of DesRosiers and Associates Consultants,
DesRosiers Automotive Consultants.
and fortunate to have Dennis here today. Dennis, tell me where the market is going. Seems like a banner year for car sales in Canada.
Well, the 5th record year in a row. Will be above 2 million units come the end of December for the first time ever. And it looks like we have similar sales going forward for a few more years anyway. We may not see a lot of growth, but I think we should be able to hit the 2 million mark next year and the year after.
And how would that compare to, let's say, vehicle sales 10 years ago in Canada?
Well, we used to operate in an environment where once we got to 1.4 to 1.5 million, you were considered to be in heaven. And once we hit 1.6 million, everybody was like, oh my God, how come things get any better? And then you go through these correction periods. The last big correction, obviously, was the financial crisis, and we dropped down quite a bit. The Americans more than us, but nonetheless, Canada as well. And we've just climbed out of it. I attribute that to 3 words: quality, quality, and quality.
So the quality is certainly improved in product.
An average vehicle day, if you bought a vehicle today, it should be on the road for 400 to 450,000 kilometers. When I bought my first vehicle back in the 60s and the 70s, it was on the road for under 200,000 kilometers. So you're getting twice the use. And what that's done, actually, is created a new class of vehicle owners that are out there. People who are interested in still a reasonable quality vehicle, but don't mind driving an older vehicle. And so ownership has gone up quite dramatically. It was about 2/3 of the driving age population. Now it's well over 85%. And that means there's 10 million more drivers today than just at the turn of the century. And those consumers wear out their vehicles and they come back into the marketplace. They may buy used, but then what does that consumer do? And it ultimately has led this market to be up into the 2 million range and should be sustainable.
And is there still scrappage, or these cars obviously are staying on the road longer?
Well, they stay a lot longer, but they ultimately do come off the road. This year we will take somewhere between 1.6 and 1.8 million vehicles will be scrapped in Canada. And obviously those consumers, if they want personal use transportation, have to come back into the marketplace. And as I said, they may buy used, not necessarily new, although some buy new. But ultimately it works its way through various trades into the car dealer and a new vehicle sale.
So when you talk about quality, it's not only product. Is the delivery process going to a retailer or a dealer throughout the channel? Is there improved quality from past performance of car dealers or brands, manufacturers?
It varies by brand, it varies by dealer, and there's still underperforming dealers out there. But I think the dealer body has probably gone through one of its biggest transformations in its history. It certainly is a much better experience for consumers. Although I'm amazed on the various pieces that I've been involved with, how often you find a disappointing experience with a consumer at a car dealer. There's still a lot of work to be done, even though it's changed quite radically.
Well, it's also an industry where, as we drove for better quality and better dealers, better facilities, we also at times overpromise. But I know from our experience at the APA, we're not getting the same level of complaints that we had. We're getting different ones, but certainly not that, my car's 2 years old and it's rusted through, or this doesn't work.
And while I might be the oddball out here, I think one complaint is too many. That there's no fundamental reason why any consumer should be worried about going into a new car dealer and negotiating for a new car or a used car, parts and service, et cetera, et cetera. These vehicles are complex. You need somebody who is in the industry, who understands this industry and understands the product to get you through this ownership cycle that you're in. It's very rare that a consumer can figure this out all by themselves, and it's the car dealer's role to do that.
Right.
And I'm disappointed, tremendously disappointed, when car dealers get caught out of sorts on these things. Thank God 90+% of them, maybe 95+% of them, are pretty good guys doing a really good job. But on the margin, when it happens, it drives me nuts.
Well, I would agree with you that one problem is too many, but vehicles are complex, and often vehicle owners don't understand the product that they're driving, and they haven't read the owner's manual, they haven't had a proper delivery process.
Yeah, and that's part of it. Obviously, there's a bit of an ownership issue in here. But still, I think that we can still do a better job in our industry, particularly with some groups. I talk to a lot of female buyers, and they still struggle, a lot of them, complain to me at least, about their experience at a dealership. That shouldn't be. Men seem to be more capable of working through this process. But nonetheless, we've got a good market, though, and in a good market.
And they sold 2 million cars. Are they going to sell 2 million?
2 million cars are like trucks. It's got to be careful. Too many vehicles. 2 million vehicles, not cars.
Well, Dennis, we're going to go to break, but when we come back, we definitely want you to tell us of what kind of cars people are buying today. These 2 million cars out on the road.
First class.
Sold. Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show. I'm with Dennis DesRosiers. And Dennis, what are people buying? There's 2 million cars being sold today in Canada. What are people driving off the lots?
The two big categories that are doing so well is luxury vehicles, and I think an awful lot of that is the boomer and the wealth that's generated out there, and it's just continuing to grow. But the real big story is the move to light trucks. Last month, for the first time, 70% of the market in Canada were light trucks on a year-to-date track.
Is that a pickup or a SUV? Or
well, we define light truck as pickups, large and small, vans, minivans, as well as full-size vans, and sport utility vehicles of all shapes and sizes. You have, small ones, medium-sized ones, and big ones now. And so
why
that's
are they
big.
moving? Why are they moving to those vehicles if they consume more fuel?
Well, let me bore you for 1 second here.
Okay.
Right? So you'd love to be bored, I know.
Not me,
But
but
I go back. I'm 67. I've been doing this for 45 years, and so I put a historical perspective, and I bring it down to 3 different things. First of all, is Woodstock.
Woodstock.
Woodstock, yeah,
Okay.
1960s. Rock festival. It's the coming of age of the baby boomer. Those kids, like myself at the time, born post the Second World War, and we're finding freedom, and freedom is often represented as a vehicle. That was the Volkswagen bus. Watch the movie,
Right.
and you see the buses, and it was different lifestyle, activity-based, not wanting to buy what our parents bought. Our parents bought station wagons and cars. We're going to do something different. That's number one. That's morphed into Gen X, Gen Y, and now millennials.
Okay.
Number 2 is overregulation by the government.
Really?
Yeah, really. Remember Unsafe at Any Speed,
Yes,
Nader?
Ralph
And
Nader.
all the safety stuff, and also the view of the pollution coming out of the tailpipe, criteria air contaminants.
And that's driven the sales, or the lack of legislation.
And well, back in the 60s and the 70s, our governments targeted the pollution and the safety, and the technology for vehicles hadn't caught up enough with it. And so an awful lot of cars were pretty lousy cars, okay? The government didn't target light trucks back then. All of them were commercial use and didn't want to punish businesses. And so consumers said, well, rather than buy one of these crappy cars, I'm going to go out and buy one of these trucks. Add in the lifestyle stuff, and you know, all of the full-size vans and all of this kind of stuff became very popular.
And people like them because they sit up high,
Exactly.
good resale value.
But what they didn't like was that they drove like a truck, you know, stiff. And that was the third thing. The industry started to evolve into what's called unibody construction, away from body on frame, which made these light trucks much more car-like in their driving. And you put together the changing construction together with the changing norms with the population cohorts coming through, together with the regulatory time frame or framework that was put out. And that started to move trucks being 15, 16% of the marketplace. And today they're 70%.
So that's what they're buying. So I gather that sedans are not selling in the volume that they used to.
Well, car sales are down 6-7% this year, and light truck sales are up double digit. And so we will have cars longer term, no doubt. And there'll come a day when there's so few cars out there, a vehicle company introduce one to differentiate themselves from all those truck guys that were out there.
We have a little bit of time left. Tell me your perspective on EVs for Canadians and PHEVs. It seems that everybody's talking about it. The government in Ontario, BC and Quebec are throwing all sorts of money at the market, yet it's a small percentage of total sales, isn't it?
All roads lead to electric vehicles, and the government and the vehicle companies investing heavily in it, government forcing it. The one problem that everybody's having, especially in North America, is that consumers don't want to buy the darn things. And there's a lot of reasons behind that, as too often referred to as range as the big problem. I think that is a problem, but there's a lot of other bigger reasons, and perhaps the biggest reason is that the vehicle companies are doing so much with your internal combustion engine vehicle, your ICE.
Well, the fuel economy is tremendous today than it was previously.
You take the average vehicle, doesn't matter which segment you're in, today versus 10 years ago, and it's 25% more fuel efficient, and it's improving its fuel efficiency about 2 to 3% per year.
And if
And
the
so
government
why take the risk with an electric vehicle?
and if the government turns off the tap on these big rebates that they're offering, the
Well-
sales will stay flat? Or?
Well, in the examples we have, Atlanta had a big move to battery electric vehicles. When they turned off the subsidies, it dropped down to nothing. Same with Norway, which is the most electrified fleet in the world. The government can't afford those incentives anymore, and it's dropped down quite dramatically as well. And so there's more efficient ways and better ways to address the climate
So we'll
change
still
issue.
be putting gas in our cars for the conceivable time.
The last piece of work that I saw is that if electric vehicles capture 35% of the market, of the new vehicle market by 2035, which may or may not happen, it's less than 1% now. It's a long way to go. But if they did, we still would have 92, 93% ICE vehicles on the road. That electric vehicles still would account for well under 10% of the vehicles on the road.
Dennis, unfortunately, that's the time we have left.
Thank you.
You very much for coming in. I wish that we could continue our conversation. We will in the near future. We'll be right back with Ask the Mechanic.
Welcome back to the Lemonade Car Show. I'm your host, Lorraine Sommerfeld. I'm with John Raymond, industry consultant, and Brian Early, our mechanic. We're going to shift our seasonal discussion from tires back to just what we need to know now that the temperatures have plummeted. Brian, what's something that most people overlook until now when it's cold?
Well, there's all kinds of things. I mean, batteries come to mind as an obvious thing, but I mean, there's even things like belts or wiper systems. There's all sorts of things that are more brittle and affected by the cold. Things that were marginal when it was a little warmer out, might now get your attention inadvertently. You know, and even the old standbys of antifreeze, we don't see cars freezing up very often, but the quality of the antifreeze can still be an issue.
There's a lot of people don't realize that wiper blades are basically made from the stuff that tires are made from. There's such a difference between winter wiper blades and normal wiper blades, and usually until someone puts new ones on. I put them in the kids' stockings at Christmas, and because I'm that mother, it's like I give out apples at Halloween. But they're expensive because you have to buy two, and they're not two in a pack. It's because they're all different sizes. What a difference, though, the clarity when you put on new blades.
If you go to a metal frame wiper blade, and then you take that and you put on a winter, there's a huge difference. With the new style, which is all rubber, a beam, those actually last pretty good in the winter, but they're very expensive. So putting winter wiper blades is a good choice. If you have a full rubber blade, that's acceptable for the winter, but I think that's a good stocking stuffer for sure.
I think it's good. And just be careful when you're chipping away at ice. Don't chip on your blades because you'll take little microscopic pieces out of
Or
it.
pulling them off the windshield when they're frozen to it, also not ideal.
Yeah, that's like skin. It's like doing this to the post. You know, 'cause
But there is seasonal items that owners can do. Clean their floor mats so there's no dirt on them because
Just the
moisture
salt,
sits on that dirt and then the cars get fogged up. Checking your wiper blades, washing your windows with a Windex or Windex-like product in the fall inside and out because the wipers will be more effective on the outside and on the inside it won't fog up as much. Lubricating your door hinges and things like that, people could do that themselves.
let's go back to batteries for a second because I think there's not so much a misconception as an evolution. Things are changing in our cars rapidly. They're computers on wheels.
Yes.
Batteries aren't lasting as long as they used to. And my dad, God rest his soul, would tell you could get 10 years out of a battery if you had cables in the back with you. What's the average lifespan of a battery now?
3 to 4 years.
I would agree with 5, 6 on the outside.
So important to get it tested because a dead cell can leave you stranded somewhere. I've heard batteries fail more in the summer than the winter even. Is that true?
Well, they don't really like extremes of temperature. The heat is a problem, definitely, but what you get on the flip side in the winter is all of the tolerances, everything in the motor is tighter, the oil is thicker, and now you're asking it to crank over at a lower voltage. It really beats the battery up cold starting, exactly.
Plus this battery, even though you've locked it and you've gone in the house, it's still holding all your radio stations, it's still holding all your
absolutely.
settings. So that car's...
Your average vehicle now can have 20 or more modules in it, and most of them have a memory in them, and most of them take some small amount of current to stay on.
So it's the same as keeping your microwave and your TV and everything else plugged in. Your car is staying plugged in. That's why it's
There's
creating
the
the battery.
alarm system that's running, there's the computers that are running in the background.
Key.
Yeah.
Proximity. But what's also interesting is during this drive for better fuel economy and more electronics, the industry is also lightened batteries. Okay, so there's smaller batteries that were going in a number of cars, primarily the Asian cars.
Probably
And
not
once
much.
you get
Tires
one
would do more.
damaged cell, the battery is finished.
Yeah.
So when you get your mechanical tester battery, you get a printout. Do they still do a printout?
Some shops do.
Yeah. You
Some
tell.
shops have that, yeah.
I think part of the problem too is if you're used to leasing cars, you probably haven't replaced a battery. And then if you buy one, you have to replace it even though the car is in great shape. That's just part of the maintenance now, and they don't last as long as they
As
used
the
to.
car ages, if you have a car 3 or 4 years old, we certainly recommend doing a load test of the battery. That's the most effective type of battery
And there's
test.
also a capacitance tester that works differently, but can also diagnose a battery that's going to die soon.
Oh, okay. So they'll know.
And that's another reason why you should have your car examined twice a year, because you don't want to get stuck on the road in the winter.
No.
And the cost of getting stuck if you don't have membership in Auto Club or something like that is quite high.
Well, let's face it, if you're in the boonies, it's life-threatening potentially too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I find when you change your tires over twice a year, it gets it under the mechanic. And I don't think people should change their own tires unless they have a torque wrench. And I know people go, I could do it. You know what? One loose wing nut, one loose nut.
That's a topic all on its own, but yeah, I'm on the one hand, I support the do-it-yourself movement, but at the same time, if you really don't 100% know what you're doing and have the equipment, don't.
And even changing a tire, I've done this at the paper, we've done video, and it's like I'm reefing away on it. It's to get to safety. The only reason is to get to where you need to, and then stop and let somebody else put the tire on properly.
Let's not forget to put your lights on, make sure your light switch is on,
lights.
and that we should check our light bulbs at this time of year.
Yeah, do walk around on your car. It's dark at 3:30 in the afternoon. There's no
Because
reason that you
Lorraine
can't.
and a number of other motors are very tired of seeing no taillights on.
It's dangerous, especially this time of year. Put it in auto, pull it on. Government's finally catching up, or it's going to be a while till all the cars on the road. are
Legislation is on
up
the
to
way.
Legislation, yeah. I passed 3 coming out this morning, and
Yeah, likewise.
it doesn't take much.
There's a few.
Yeah, so everyone check the stock on your lighting system, please, and your kids and your spouses. Check everybody's lighting
Well, you know,
system.
they see the instrument cluster backlit and they think the lights are on, and it's an innocent mistake, but it could be a big one.
Anyway, that's a good note to end on. Thank you, gentlemen. John Raymond, Brian Early, and thanks to Crown and Omvic. That's it for Lemonade. Thanks to you viewers, too.